Welcome back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives, and I am here with the creators and co-directors of the Lesbian Bar Project. It started as a fundraising movement that has evolved over the past 2 years into a television docu-series now airing on the Roku Channel. Now, this project has been covered by the New York Times, NBC and ABC News, The Today Show, PBS. I'm here with Erica, Rose, and Elina Street, and you guys are proof that women can really get shit done. How are you guys?
Great. Thank you for having us.
I mean, you just came back. We're going to get into like the origin story of this whole project, but you just came back from a publicity tour where you traveled, to each of the cities?
Yeah. We went to Houston, and then we went to Phoenix. And that was right after our New York premiere.
Before we get into like the whole project here, how do you two know each other?
Well, one night.
It all started
on a street corner.
It actually would be great if you had like met at Cubbyhole.
Well,
almost.
Well, okay. We both had this friend named Charlotte Arnoux. Charlotte texted me one day, and this is back in like 2019, and she said, "Erica Rose, meet Elina Street. You both are queer, you both are filmmakers, and you have the two best names in the industry. Be friends." And she set us up on a friendship date, and the three of us went to this show together. And Elina and I were both reeling from breakups, and we immediately hit it off. And not just because we had broken hearts and egos, but mostly because we really just got along, creatively. Friendship, love at first sight.
What year was this?
2019. We did try to make out. Oh my God.
So like, what? Wait, I'm sorry. Wait, I skipped over that.
We did try to make out. We did make out once. Is it okay if I?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. We like accidentally ended up on a double date together. And then I was being a gentleman. And I was like, why don't I walk you home? And we were walking towards Cubbyhole, and we were like 2 blocks away from Cubbyhole. And it was, this kind of like romantic, dreamy winter night. And I don't know, the moment swelled up, and I pulled
I'm getting like secondhand embarrassment.
The moment swelled up, and we kissed, and then we decided that we were just actually very good friends. It was an instant connection.
Yes.
Wow.
We were both going through the depressing breakups. So
yeah.
It was hard to commit to anything more than a kiss. And we've talked about this, but we can talk about it again.
Yeah, I still feel rejected. No, I feel like all...
Is this actually just a ruse to spend more time with Elina?
Yes, actually, yes. But I do think all lesbian best friendships they flirt with the idea of are we supposed to be together, or are we supposed to be friends?
So it's funny because we usually record podcasts separately. So it's kind of the first time that this is all being said, and it's great.
Yeah, we still
have things to talk about even after 2.5 years of working together.
We're airing out our dirty laundry with you, Jess. So can't wait.
So let's get into the origin of this. So from what I understand, and I didn't I think we're all pretty active members in the community. I'm not really a bar person. I actually never was, not even in college. I was never a big drinker. And I always, maybe this will go into the reason why the lesbian bars have dwindled, but I have always met the people that I dated online. Whether I started out I was on some of my best friends I met on Planet Out. You guys may be too young. Is that before your...
I think that's... Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, what's Planet Out?
Sounds like the L word.
Yeah, is it?
No, this so predates the L word.
Okay.
Oh, no, maybe that was Planet Out. Who knows? I don't know. We have to go on the Wayback Machine and look. But that was how I met 2 of my still really good friends. And then I used to do... I've never met somebody I dated in real life.
That's very modern.
I'm really bad at online dating, or I was very bad at it, because I definitely am more of a in-person kind of gal. And actually the bars were were the places that I met people.
Same. Well, I was definitely very straight when I moved to New York City, and that was 10 years ago. And I remember going to a lot of straight parties, and then when it would when 3 a.m. would hit and I was a little bit out of it and drunk, I would actually stumble into Cubbyhole or Henrietta Hudson alone. And I had never been to a bar alone. But somehow I had this driving force that told me to go into that space because that was the only place where I felt like I could be safe enough to come out. Because I think it would have been more intimidating for me to do that online because I didn't know myself in that way yet.
That's so interesting. I had the complete opposite experience.
I think honestly, looking back, I also feel like I don't know how I did it going there alone, you know, and I think they serve a different purpose for everyone. And for me, it was very educational, actually. I met people that were a lot older, people that were a lot younger, and that helped me understand the past, present, and future of the community.
Yeah.
Which is so important in our community.
Well, we have also really witnessed a distinct shift in who comes to the bars pre and post in the middle of COVID. I think before the pandemic, I didn't see younger generations there. Like I really saw kind of like older millennials or, you know, Gen X, even boomers. And it's been really striking going back to the bars and seeing this like swath of younger people.
Erica, it's just because we're getting older. But I mean, I hear you. But
I know now that we're 30. For real though, it's, you know, and in our New York episode with Henrietta Hudson, like she talks about that. She talks about how like the young people today are coming to the bars with this like new fervor and exuberance. And I think it's because they had space taken away from them before they had the opportunity to actually patronize it. And now it's so important and precious to them that they're taking full advantage of it. And it really encouraged...
Taken away from them in the sense of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think a lot of them, like they were just turning 21 or just moving to a city and just graduating college, just coming out, and they had nowhere to go. And I think they were forced, you know, online and separate from each other. And I think that wasn't enough. And I'm not saying like, I think to your point, an online experience is beautiful and part of our culture. But I think we need both. And that was really what motivated us in this project. When we figured out there were so few lesbian bars left, it was this wake-up call of this is potentially catastrophic if we don't have gathering spaces for us.
What this whole project hinges on, so in the 80s, the stats that you guys have on the website, and I encourage everyone to go, is it just lesbianbarproject.org?
.com.
Okay. So you have a bunch of stats on there and you can see the remaining bars and you have like features on each of them, which I love. Whoever did your site, I really love the way they did it. And so from the site, it says in the 80s, there were roughly 200 lesbian bars in the United States. Today, there are fewer than 25.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my first question is, how did this even come into your consciousness? Like, it can't be that, oh, we came up with this together. One of you realized that stat and told the other.
Yeah, I saw an NBC Out article. In like March of 2020 that was saying that there was only 16 lesbian bars left in the country. And then I called Elina, and we were basically spending every day on the phone with each other regardless, because we were trying to make sense of this really unprecedented time. And we also realized that the last time we were able to see each other in person was at Ginger's, the lesbian bar in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. And that was like our last big hurrah of a night before COVID happened. And we had a blast that night. That was really fun.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was like the end of the world celebration. But anyway, so and then we started talking about it. And then through conversation, we kind of conceptualized, you know, doing something together, something cinematic to alert the community. Because, you know, as you said earlier, we consider ourselves like very ingrained in the community, and we didn't even know the numbers were so bad. So we were like, we were fucking unemployed because the pandemic, like, you know, stripped our industry of any work.
Yeah, we should say that you are both established filmmakers. Like, collectively, you guys have had shorts in film festivals all over the United States. I know that you went to NYU Film School.
Yeah, we both did.
Yeah,
You both did. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know that, Erica, you worked on Billions and Couples Therapy. You are a Showtime diva.
Yes. I've done Showtime. I've done Netflix. I've done HBO. I've done PBS. I've kind of been all around the gamut.
And Elina, you worked on The Sinner with Jessica Biel. Mm-hmm. So you guys have established credits, but this isn't like your first shot at making something indie. Like, you guys have worked in the industry alongside very, very established directors.
Yes. But what was interesting about this new exercise, I guess, for us was that all of a sudden you're stripped from your career and you're forced to focus within your shift in your goals become, hey, like let's do a call to action. Let's use our tools as filmmakers to make a difference here. And, you know, we both worked with actors and now we're going to make documentaries. And it was a very organic transition, actually.
And we both have we both have documentary past as well.
Documentary,
we both did a lot.
Commercial.
So I know that this first started out as like a PSA. You created like a little short. There was like, and then there was like a 20-minute short film. At what point did Lea DeLaria become attached to it, and how did that happen? Like, did you really just cold reach out to her?
So we conceptualized the 90-second PSA in 2020, and we knew that we wanted it to be branded because we needed that brand support monetarily to fund it, and we also knew that it would reach a wider audience. So we pitched to a couple of alcohol brands because we actually like went through agencies too. We really explored lots of different avenues, but it just made sense to go to a liquor brand because it was intrinsically symbiotically linked to the bar culture. And then we knew that we wanted this like unifying voice to narrate the PSA, and who better than the Lord of the Lesbians herself, Lea DeLaria.
So did you just like cold reach out?
We brought on a friend of mine named Erica Hart, who's a wonderful casting director, and she had a good relationship with Leah's management team. So we made her like a formal offer, like as one does when you're casting, and Lena and I wrote her a letter too. And we got a call within, I would say, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which is unprecedented. Wow. And then we got a call from both her manager and Lea herself. She was on the phone with us and she was like, I've been waiting for something like this. I've been sounding the alarm. I am down. I'm in. And so we attached her right then and there, and we recorded with her, and she was really instrumental and helpful in like getting the word out. Once we did that, it was very important to us to do a fundraising campaign because it's like, okay, there's one thing to raise awareness, but these bars at that point were in such crisis that they didn't just need awareness, they needed fucking money, to be explicit. Like PPP loans wasn't enough. And many of them actually didn't even get them. And they were at a moment of absolute peril, and we were like, let's raise money for them. And beyond our wildest expectations, like we raised over $117,000 for the bars in 4 weeks. And that was something that we like never expected.
Yeah, because that was really with the PSA too. We weren't filming at the bars. We had some moments where we shot the outside of Cubbyhole, but it was still closed due to COVID. Same with Ginger's, same with Henrietta's. And we used a lot of archival. So this was sort of the making of what then became the show.
So you had that 20-minute like short, what felt like a short film.
Right, that came after, yeah.
That came after. And I mean, it truly, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but the origins of this podcast started as kind of like a Bravo-based thing.
Yeah.
And I know that Jenna Lyons was at the premiere of the Lesbian Bar Project, that 20-minute short.
Yes.
And so one might think, what the fuck was Jenna Lyons doing there? This all ties in because she was just announced as to be a new housewife.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That made a ripple effect in the lesbian.
that ran through the community. But I know that the reason she was there was because a friend of hers was like sort of like ribbing her, saying, you don't do enough for the community. Like, how did you even get the invite to her?
So we had last year an executive producer named Miriam Adams. She's a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch and a wonderful human being, shows up for the community. She prioritizes working with queer women clients, and she is very good friends with Jenna's best friend, Sarah. And Miriam was like, yeah, like, let's get Jenna here. And she, lo and behold, she showed up.
Were you surprised?
I mean, I think Miriam wanted to impress us and made it her priority. No, I mean, No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, like,
don't-
who wouldn't want to come?
Because at the time we were really in our crowdfunding mode, and we had had a lot of press, and people were really interested in still helping out the community in that way. You know, a lot of fundraising campaigns were just flowing. So I think from that philanthropic effort, people were very drawn to the project.
Wow. Okay, so Lea DeLaria is clearly, to me as like an outsider, it seems like she is the face of it. I mean, like she narrated the short. Spoiler alert, this is now an actual docu-series that's airing. You have 3 full-length episodes. I was at the premiere the other week, and you screened all 3 of them. I literally thought, by the way, that we were just going to see one episode. I did not anticipate seeing. And I sat behind your editor, Kevin Oliver, who...
Shout out to Kevin.
Shout out to Kevin Oliver, who it turns out I have been DMing with for like, God knows how far back these DMs go, because he's actually a listener of this show. He's a huge Madonna and Housewives fan. Aww. So it's how random that he's your editor.
Well, I will tell you, he said, he was like, oh my God, how do you know Jess? And I was like, through gay things. We were in Fire Island together.
Through gay things.
And
we have mutual friends.
Yeah, but
and we spent a week in Fire Island.
Mutual gay friends. Yeah. And he was like, oh my God, don't tell her this. But now I'm airing it. Sorry, Kevin.
Well, you immediately told me.
I know. I did immediately. Sorry, Kevin. I was like, I immediately told Jess that you were a mega fan, but I also am a mega fan of yours. So
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yes, we're big fans of you, Kevin.
But I love that I got to sit behind him
and his mom
and like chat with him. And I swear to God, as soon as I got home, he was like in my DMs, like talking about Housewives. It was like not a beat advance. So there are 3 episodes that are streaming right now. So like, I don't have Roku. If you don't, and meanwhile, everyone I know does, right. But if I don't have Roku, how do you get the Roku channel?
It's so easy. Just go to the App Store on whatever device you have, download the Roku channel, and just then search Lesbian Bar Project, and it will come up immediately. It's free. So you don't have to make an account. You don't have to do anything. If you have Roku, it's already there. Just search the Lesbian Bar Project and make sure you're watching. Our short film was acquired by Sundance TV, so it's also so you can find our short film. Make sure, watch that as well, but make sure you're looking at the 2022 page and that you are seeing all 3 episodes.
And it's interesting. So I had watched the 20-minute version, but what you then transformed it into is quite different, because now you're telling stories about the bar owners.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a brilliant move, because you can do 21 episodes of this. It's like, how much further? So like, yeah, like the bars are closing, but now you have actual personal stories to tell. So can appreciate good storytelling. And that was a brilliant move to do that.
Thanks.
I'm curious, going back to Lea DeLaria, what creative input does she have?
She and her manager, Jeremy Katz, they're both executive producers. So they give us notes, they give us feedback. They've both been in the industry for many years, and they'll review our outlines, our scripts, our cuts. So they'll we'll have conversations with them. But at the end of the day, they're very supportive of our ideas, and they really want to showcase and champion the bar owners and the bars themselves.
And she kind of, because I've seen all 3 episodes, she basically she opens every episode and takes the viewer in, and like, this is what you're about to hear, and like, she's funny, she does her whole thing.
Yeah, you're right. She does take the viewer in. We wanted to feel like it was a warm environment, as if you were having a drink with her.
That's exactly the vibe. It is very like fireside chat vibes.
Yeah.
Right?
That was what we wanted to do. We wanted like daddy fireplace, like make you feel all warm and fuzzy. But yeah, I think one thing we did creatively is that we really wanted this to feel more like a chef's table, and really have the bar owners be front and center, and treat them like craftsmen. Treat them like pioneers, treat them like creative artists, because they are. And that's something that we've always said, that they're cultural architects. And we really wanted to center the story on them, rather than have something that's like a bit more hosted, like a Queer Eye, where the hosts kind of like take up, a lot of space, which is like totally, that's like a very valid genre, but that just wasn't a creative choice we made. So I think having Lea do the intros was really great, because it was able to use her talents and use her charm in a way that was unifying, and introduced the viewers to what was happening, but then also we were able to really dive into the stories of the bar owners and the location.
Yeah. I mean, off of that, Lisa Canestrasi, owner of Henrietta Hudson, does say that Henrietta has a heartbeat. And I think that that's really what we wanted to focus on, is humanizing the bars to really elevate the bar owners and their community.
So something that was really illustrated through watching the series is that even if this doesn't speak to you as somebody who goes to bars all the time, what was really illustrated is that they're not just bars. Like, if you think about it, Henrietta Hudson, that's where Carolyn and Melody did the L Word screenings. And going back to when I was young, well let's say I'm still young, but going back to like even the first iteration of the L Word, those were all screened. Do you know how many people like met their girlfriends like for the night or whatever at like L Word screenings? Those were all at, I remember that Starlight. This is probably again before your time.
We know Starlight though. Yeah.
On Avenue A. Like, I used to go to that back in 2004 when the series was first airing. Like, they've always been gathering places, not just for the L Word, but like I noticed like I think particularly the one in Houston, because they have the space, she's throwing like backyard barbecues. Like they turn into restaurants as well.
Yeah.
I mean, took a long way to get to my point. Forgive me, but yes, that is my point.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for acknowledging that, because that is something that has been true of these spaces forever. Back in the 30s and 40s, they were underground safe houses, and they were the only space where you can be yourself and potentially find a partner.
Did you guys, I mean, certainly you've watched The A League of Their Own.
Yeah.
That episode,
Yeah.
episode 6,
Yes.
I know.
like rocked me to my core. I thought that was the best episode of the series.
I agree.
People listening haven't watched A League of Their Own. Obviously watch it, the series, but particularly episode 6 is so spectacular in the way they recreate these, what would we call them, speakeasies?
Yeah. These, I guess, speakeasies, underground.
Hidden bars,
Yeah.
hidden lesbian bars.
Because
There's
being
the
gay
back
was
of a
still
building. You
being
have to access it through the back of a building. You know, it's not advertised at all. And you walk through this corridor
through like the back of the
Fake,
movie in the
yeah.
in the show.
Yeah.
The Wizard of Oz is heavily themed throughout, and like they're going through the back of the theater, like it's
It's like
connected
a portal, right?
to another world.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people forget that being queer was criminalized up until recently because of sodomy laws. And I think that, yeah, we gained more visibility in the 80s and 90s, but these bars were instrumental because they were not just areas where you can find someone, but they were areas of political action. You know, like ACT UP was organized primarily in bar spaces. And we look at like the women's rights movement was, you know, organized in a lot of these bars, regardless if the women were queer or not. You know, marriage equality, a lot of those organizers, that happened in the bars. And I think that that's something that's really, really important and something that's actually coming back. Now we're seeing like a lot of voter registration happening at the bars. A lot of politicians come to the bars. You know, Stacey Abrams came to my sister's room in Atlanta like a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And it's like these bars are, as you said, not just places where people drink. I mean, to the point of the Houston episode, Julie's sober. Like, you know, and she...
So many bar
Lisa
owners.
as well.
Yeah,
from
Lisa's sober
Hens,
too.
yeah.
So many bar owners and bartenders are sober.
And patrons, actually. How do you open your doors to, you know, a sober clientele as well? You can serve food. You can stay open earlier hours before the big party scene comes in.
Even Stacy, who owns Stonewall, the upstairs of Stonewall is an event space. That's where our friends Carolyn and Melody, they do monthly stand-up shows there. I've seen Julie Goldman perform there. I've seen Julie Goldman perform at the Duplex.
Right.
Like tons of stuff. Matt Rogers was doing his Christmas show at the Duplex for years.
Yeah.
Before he had a huge platform. So they're not even just restaurants. They're like drag performances. Like it's everything.
Or concert venues. Pearl, like she got Charlie XCX. She had when we were there, Big Frida performed, which was
Wow.
amazing.
And then you have the drag king shows.
Yeah,
which
the
are
drag king
a
shows.
Huge deal.
My number one question
Yes.
is the following. It's not how did you decide which 3 cities, although that'll be my next question. I want to focus on New York because that's where we live.
Yes.
I find Henrietta's to be such an unlikely choice.
Why? Yeah.
And I do give the credit to Lisa for totally, not only did she renovate it, she reimagined it, rebranded it. So when I was in my early 20s, Henrietta's was not the place you went. It had a totally different clientele. It really was like quite dingy at the time. It wasn't seen. The other places were just far more chic, I guess. Like Starlight existed, and like Meow Mix like had a whole different vibe. But if I were to guess, suppose I didn't know which bar in New York you chose, I would have assumed you would have picked the Cubbyhole because I think it's probably the most famous lesbian bar in the country. Like Andy Cohen has elevated its presence. It's his, local neighborhood bar. All of the housewives hang out there after Watch What Happens Live. I know it's Lea DeLaria's favorite bar, or Stonewall, which has the historic nature. In watching the series, I turned to our friends. I was like, I get why they did Henrietta. And it's because of Lisa's story.
Yeah.
She is so charismatic that I get it.
Yeah.
How did you land on Henrietta Hudson versus any of the other lesbian bars?
So
in
I
New
think
York?
that's actually why we also decided to highlight Henrietta Hudson, because it was like the obvious choice to go to Cubbyhole. And in our short film, we do talk about Cubbyhole.
In the short, Lea goes to Cubbyhole.
Yes, she goes to Cubbyhole. There's a conversation scene with Lisa Menachino, who's the owner of Cubbyhole.
I think that, one, Stonewall doesn't identify as a lesbian bar, even though it's also, has a lot of, lesbian centric nights. And I think the thing with Lisa Canastrasi that's really caught our eye is that she's been a witness to queer history over the past 30 years. And I think that she could speak to that, and Henrietta Hudson's evolution can speak to that. And that was very, very intriguing to us. I mean, one thing is that Lisa has done so much for the community. I mean, she talks about it, that she was involved in ACT UP. One thing we didn't get to touch on is that she was very instrumental in marriage equality New York, and also advised in marriage equality California. And I think that, activism has always been really part of her, DNA. The thing that we wanted to do in approaching this episode, unlike our Houston and Phoenix episodes, is that we really used her story as a vehicle to explore both the success and the failings of the queer community over the past 30 years. And one thing that we wanted to do was include the Salsa Soul Sisters in her episode.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Tell because I didn't know who the Salsa Soul Sisters were. Can you headline it?
Yeah.
Explain what this group of women have done.
So the Salsa Soul Sisters are the oldest Black and brown lesbian organization in the country. And back in the 70s and 80s, Black women were not welcome to the bars. The bars were owned and operated mostly by white people, also a lot by the mob, and that's a whole other story. But
I think Fire Island is entirely owned by the mob.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another time.
Of course. Diane Romano. Just kidding. Love you, Diane. But there was race-based quotas at the door. They, would charge Black women more than white women. And
they would purposely not serve the drinks that they preferred.
Do we know why, aside from just racism?
Well, yeah, racism. I mean, I think that it's
But isn't money?
I think that a lot of the times it was about the perception of the space, and that I think there was this general belief that if you served Black and brown people, the kind of overall quality of your space would diminish, and that you wouldn't get white women who had more money into your space, and they would be deemed like a Black space. And because racism is fucking real, and it's still a fucking problem in our spaces. But I think that one thing that at least we're trying to do, and other community leaders are trying to do, is interrogate our past and improve upon it. So we included the Salsa Soul Sisters very, very purposely and specifically to say, if we're going to talk about the past of lesbian space, and the past, especially in New York, we have to tell the story of the Salsa Soul Sisters. And we wish that we had a bit more time with them, but they really laid the groundwork in what the movement became. And also, they really were emblematic of the ethos of our series, which is that these bars are more than just bars. because they weren't even able to meet in bars and still had that community.
They met in churches,
apartments, restaurants, parks, the pier. Like, they met anywhere they could. And it really shows that community doesn't have to be constrained to four walls. Community is anywhere you can create it. And that's
as long as you're with your people.
Exactly. And I think that they did so much wonderful work for Black and brown women in the city. You know, they talk about it in the episode that they organized. They were talking about crime prevention, harm reduction. They were talking about, you know, childcare. They were talking about domestic violence. They were talking about stuff that affects all queer people. And I think that they just are so wonderful. And we really wanted to give them a seat at the table because they fucking deserve it.
And they were at the premiere. Like, all of the bar owners, including the Soul Sisters, were there. And it was so interesting to see this older generation. Like, these are women in their 70s, some in their 80s.
Yeah.
They held the room. Like, when they spoke, like, you could hear a legit pin drop. Like, they were just so powerful. Okay, so that's New York. How, for the series, how did you decide on the Pearl Bar in Houston and Boycott in Phoenix? Like, were there others in the running?
Yeah. So when we first started the project, we actually divided the bar owners, like who we were going to deal with and communicate with. And yeah, deal with sounds so, I mean, yeah, we dealt with them. No, but we divided and conquered. So we got close to certain owners individually. And I started talking to Julie like day one of the project.
She's the owner of Pearl in Houston.
Yeah, Julie Mabry. And she was really vulnerable, really raw, really honest. And I was really drawn and gravitated to that.
How much time did it take to create each episode?
We filmed for about 5 days each.
Yeah, which is not much. But it took a lot longer just to establish our relationships with our owners.
Yeah, like a year. Yeah. But we shot in June and July. And then it was a very fast post-production process. Because we launched October 11th. So
and then we basically finished the show like 2 days before the premiere.
We finished a day before the premiere. We finished the show.
Yeah, it was like 24 hours.
It was crazy.
When I interviewed Guinevere Turner, who I know that you have chatted and met with in person as well, Erica, in my interview with her, she mentioned the owner of Meow Mix.
Yeah, Brooke Webster.
Brooke Webster. Yeah. She also was the owner of Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Which was actually like one of the best, to be honest. I don't know why Caddyshack closed, aside from the fact that why do they all close? But have you thought about interviewing a figure like that, like an owner who has owned multiple bars, and like hearing the stories of those sort of iconic bars from the past?
So we actually did a lot of pre-interviews with people like Brooke Webster, and including Brooke herself. We talked to Leslie Cohen, the late Leslie Cohen, R.I.P. Leslie. She owned Sahara, a lesbian bar in the 70s where, you know, folks like Gloria Steinem, Betty Friedan would like go and hang out there. So it was like kind of crazy that they were all there. But regardless, like we did a lot of we had a lot of conversations with people like her, Cynthia Russo, and they gave us like a really wonderful portrait and lens into the spaces that they owned previously and why they closed.
So what's their story? We all, I think, know Caddyshack and Meow Mix because those are like New York. Like, what's the story there? Like, why? One
thing that Brooke mentioned to us, which was actually very, very interesting, is that in like obviously the 30s through the 70s, you were dealing with police raids. And then in the 90s, it wasn't, and in New York City, it wasn't necessarily police raids, but the Giuliani administration would have incredibly abusive and aggressive policies that would essentially bankrupt businesses because representatives from the mayor's office would come and write up these fines for the businesses. And she told us that there was this whisper network within queer nightlife where if someone from the mayor's office was headed down there, they would alert each other. And they were fines that were absolutely outrageous and ridiculous. And it was bureaucratic bullshit. And the fines would bankrupt a lot of these spaces. So that's a way in which they would police marginalized communities.
And also women-owned businesses. Leslie Cohen told us how hard it was to create Sahara because women weren't allowed to purchase liquor licenses. So Leslie had told us that she had asked her brother to be a part of it in order to actually obtain the license. I mean, yeah, in those days, it still is hard for women-owned businesses, but it was a lot harder.
Women couldn't open their own
line of credit
cards
Yeah.
without a man's signature until like
76.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I know. What's really interesting is like talking to my mom about, because my mom is in her 70s now, and it's like she was alive and around, like, and a full-fledged adult in 1976. Our moms were in their 20s and they couldn't get their own line of credit. I mean, it's very recent history.
So I want to bring this up. I noticed this when I was watching the short on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. You probably have, since you made the damn thing. The top comment is, "All right, boys, it's time to step up. During the AIDS crisis, the girls stepped up for us. Let's return some love. We need to show up, support this project, dig deep. We gots the money." What has the reaction been from guys?
Yeah, it's true, because frankly, gay men have more money than us.
I mean, neighborhoods are taken over by gay men. When finally we had neighborhoods with gay bars, that's why there are so few lesbian bars. They are mostly bars for men. Lisa Canestrasi mentions it in her episode that
Henrietta Hudson.
Yes, Lisa Canestrasi, owner of Henrietta Hudson, mentions it in her episode where she says that it was the Dykes who were helping as well during the AIDS crisis.
I mean, I think that the reaction from men and gay men has been really positive. I think a lot were part of the series. We had a ton of male collaborators and we were really open and wanted that.
Yeah, our editors, for example, that we spent night and day together.
I wonder if there could be more outreach to the gay guy community.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, between like Playhouse and Pieces and that bar Q, like there are so many.
Yeah.
And granted, they've kind of have taken over Cubbyhole as well.
Well, that's actually, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to say that a lot of gay men that we've spoken to actually feel more comfortable at lesbian bars. It's because lesbian bars are, like, if designed correctly, are safe spaces for everyone. And I think that misogyny and sexism is rampant in a lot of gay male spaces, and we can unpack that in therapy later. But I think in talking to a lot of my gay male friends, I think that the world in which they navigate in gay bars is far more cutthroat and far more dehumanizing than lesbian and
intimidating.
Intimidating, than lesbian and queer women's spaces. So I think what's interesting is that I say this, I think that men in general need to show up far more for women and trans people. I think that they can do a lot more. And I love that comment, and that was the top comment. And I think more and more are becoming aware of it. But, and gay bars are declining, but there's still thousands compared to how many lesbian bars we have.
There is a certain brand of gay guy that loves lesbian shit. Damian Bellino, who is a frequent guest on this podcast, he co-hosts a podcast with his lesbian best friend called You Might Know Her From, where they interview character actresses and non-binary performers.
Yeah.
He is he knows more about the L word than I do. Not kidding. And my other friend Brendan, he's part of the Melissa Etheridge fan club, and he's like, let's go to the opening of Melissa Etheridge's like off-Broadway show. We got front row. Like, I don't have access to get front row at Melissa Etheridge. I have seen Melissa Etheridge perform twice since August because of this guy. He has a tattoo of Melissa. This is like another level. So I just want to shout out this certain brand of gay guys, and I count Kevin Oliver, your editor, among them.
Kevin Oliver he loves the Dykes.
I just think anybody who listens to a podcast like this, which is clearly more centered on women's stories, I guess, I get so many messages from gay men where this stuff really resonates with them. And I'm hoping that this episode really speaks to the guys out there who are my brand of gay guys and probably your brand as well.
Yeah.
And I think, what can people do? Like, is there a place to donate? Like, what is the call to action aside from obviously watching the series?
Well, the call to action now, since we've closed our fundraising campaigns and we did a fundraising campaign again in 2021 and raised over $150,000 for the bars. So we were collectively almost raised $300,000 for the bars. You know, I think what people can do is watch our fucking show. Tell your friends about our fucking show. Go to Roku or the Roku Channel, or go to our website, lesbianbarproject.com, or our Instagram at Lesbian Bar Project. And they can just show up to the bars. That's our call to action, is go to the bars and keep our stories alive.
Yeah. Name another lesbian docu-series out in the world right now. There are none. So start by watching the show and show up to the bars.
It is officially the start of the holiday season, and if you want to avoid boring, basic, and bland gifts this year, Uncommon Goods is truly your secret weapon. Whether you're shopping for a secret Santa or for your kids or your friends, Uncommon Goods knows exactly what you want. I want to tell you about two of my favorite items that I think would make perfect gifts. Number one, they have tons of puzzles, and I do love this specific murder mystery puzzle. And secondly, look up the Urban Map Glass. So these are cocktail rock glasses etched with your favorite city's distinct grid. You can literally pick the city you want, whether it's New York, LA, Miami, New Orleans. I think this is a perfect holiday gift. These fine products are often made in small batches, so you want to grab them now before they're sold out. And they cover everything from art, jewelry, kitchenware, home, and barware. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 back to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $2.5 million to date. So here's what. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/hot takes. That's uncommongoods.com/hot takes for 15% off. Don't miss out on the limited time offer. Uncommon Goods is totally out of the ordinary. Where do each of your favorite celebrity sightings in, say, like Cubbyhole, Henrietta Stonewall? Can be guy or girl.
Well, my favorite one that I didn't see, but it's Allie Clayton's story, is seeing Ricki Lake at Cubbyhole when she first went. You know that, Allie Clayton.
Wait, this is hilarious. Please tell this story.
Well, she and I are actually collaborating on a script right now that's inspired by this. But I mean, just go to like her YouTube or Instagram to hear her stand-up of this story. But she, the day she lost her lesbian virginity, she was at Cubbyhole and she ran into Ricki Lake and she asked Ricki Lake for a picture. And it's like, it's the perfect celebrity sighting because it's like, Ricki Lake is not top of mind, but when you see her, you realize that your entire life has been leading up to that moment. And I think that Allie has showed me this photo. It's like her and her friend and Ricki. And it's like now when she thinks about how she was, she has an image of Ricki right next to her. So that's my favorite celebrity sighting. It wasn't mine, but I have to give Allie a shout out for that.
So the button to that story is, I think somebody in this orbit wound up like getting a cameo from Ricki, and there was some like acknowledgement of this. And then later, one of the girls who hosts the podcast DM'd her and said, "Hey, would you come on our, like, do you want to dike out with us on the podcast?" And I think she like hearted it or something. Meanwhile, they didn't close the deal on Ricki Lake.
Yeah.
But also, is Ricki Lake's not gay, is she? I mean, who cares?
She's adjacent.
Okay.
Anyone who works with John Waters, you're adjacent. You're queer enough.
Love. Do you want to hear my favorite lesbian sighting? Yeah, celesbian sighting in the wild. So this is not at a gay bar. This is just like out in the wild. So the year was probably 2006. And I'm walking down the West 4th Street subway steps. And directly in front of me is Sarah Paulson and Cherry Jones.
Whoa.
When they were together, a blast from the past. To show my mental illness, I then sent that into Gawker Stalker.
Oh, shit. That's such an era.
Yeah. Oh, I did a whole episode on the rise and fall of Gawker.
Wow.
Plug for myself.
Yeah.
But
There was actually a movie, side note, that my friends were developing about that, the rise and fall of Gawker, that I was like briefly part of.
Really?
Yeah, it never got made, but it's fascinating.
They should make it.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to sightings in lesbian bars, were either of you at Henrietta's when Kate and Leisha showed up, or when Sepida Mawathi showed up? Because I was I got tips. Obviously, I'm not just wandering the streets of Henrietta, but I got a tip that like tonight's the night, show up, and so I was there those nights.
I missed both of those. We both did, but
I hate that for you.
I know, we were really upset.
I was like, my sister was in town, and I was like, should I ditch her to go see drool at Sepide Moefe?
Probably.
But,
it was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I saw all the Instagrams. Like, it's weird because I'm like, it was actually very embarrassing because you know how like your Instagram, it's like the algorithm is like your like the feed of or whatever. It's like, and it was all like weird ass fan accounts of Seppi and Ari like making out. And I was just like, I'm humiliated that this is my entire Instagram. My entire Instagram is them. And I was like trying to get off of it. And I kid you not, they were in my feed for 6 months. For 6 months.
I feel like that sounds about right.
I'm dying.
The Gen Q was all over.
And I was embarrassed. I would be like, in a work situation, I would take out my phone and there would be like them macking on each other. And I was like, I swear to God, I looked at this once and now I'm like, I guess.
Have we ever gotten to the bottom of what that was about?
They're making out.
Yeah, like
I think they're just very good friends. And it was like,
I don't do that with my very good friends.
I mean,
I think they love the attention. But do you think they dated?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think
No
so
way.
either.
Yeah. I think they loved, the attention, and they were doing it like for the show. And yeah, as Alina said, they have very good chemistry. So why the fuck not?
Can't you two Showtime divas pull some strings with the L Word? And like, I feel like
We
there's
actually know one of the directors now, but
Yeah.
I feel like there's an obvious tie-in here, especially because you guys have worked for Showtime. There's something. What is something in the works you're not allowed to tell me?
I mean, they definitely.
Alina's nodding her head yes, and you're saying no.
Oh,
well, I mean, we don't have to. We can go off record.
Okay, so something may or may not be in the works.
Yes. I mean, hopefully we get a season 2 and then there is more in store.
How is it doing on Roku? Obviously, everyone's going to stream it, but like it's been out already for a month. How is the viewership and how do you get more episodes?
so we don't know the numbers yet, but we know that if people keep watching and keep telling their friends, it will be way more likely that we'll get a season 2. And we should know if we have a season 2 by hopefully the beginning of next year. And we do have a lot of in store and we have a lot of great ideas. I can tease this that we might be going overseas. We'll see.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because
wow.
you know what? Lesbian bars are disappearing everywhere.
Guys, you really said it all. Tell everyone, obviously follow Lesbian Bar Project on Instagram. You can watch the short right on YouTube or on the website, and then you can just watch the 3 episodes that are out. Like this is all ready and available for free. So is there anything else you want to like drive people to?
Check out our website. We have a link that will connect you directly to the show there. We have the list of the 24 bars.
That's my favorite feature on the site for sure. I love that.
So you can visit all the bars virtually, but also in person. We have some cool merch on there too.
Is there
merch? Buy our merch.
Did you travel at all to make the short?
Yeah, we did. We traveled to Mobile, Alabama. We went and documented Hers. It's an incredible bar. And then we also went to DC and featured As You Are as they were opening, and now they are opened. So they're officially brick and mortar now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but go to Roku. You can type in Lesbian Bar Project. Make sure you're watching the 2022 series. And if you don't have a Roku, download the Roku Channel app, and it's free. And then once you download the app, just type in Lesbian Bar Project, and our show will come up.
You can even like say it in the mic.
And
listen, the robots will help you. It's all happening.
Yeah, and if you still can't find it, go to lesbianbarproject.com and press watch now.
If you can't find it, DM me and I'll explain it.
Yeah, you could also DM us. We also are selling some merch for a limited time.
What is the merch? Like t-shirts?
Some hot t-shirts, some long sleeves, some beanies, some socks. Who knew?
A mug.
A mug. We can't forget our mugs. But who knew that you would need a Lesbian Bar Project sock, but you absolutely do.
And it says show up for your bar on the ball of the feet.
You guys are so fun. I love you.
Love you too.
Congratulations on everything. Like, this is such a huge accomplishment, and I couldn't be happier to participate in this way, and like very
Thank
happy
you.
for you guys.
I'm sorry I talked about you.
That's going to be edited out.